Yes, more Craftoria, and today is going to be kind of a throwback. We're going to be diving into a mod that I haven't played around with in like 5 years or more, and that mod is called actually Additions. And man, it has been quite a while. I think since 1.12.2 is the last time I believe it received a major update. And we now have it in 1.21, and it was added recently into Craftoria. So it's now in here, and we have actually additions to play with. But you may be wondering, like, what can that mod even do? Well, just to sort of break things down, it has a way of sending power, sending items, sending fluids. So it has a way of like a transportation system with its laser system. It has a tool that can be upgraded. And this was like a time back before we had a lot of things that can do stuff like this. And so we have a way of getting Silk Touch pretty early. There's also a machine that can basically swap matter. So it can change, for example, sand into soul sand and things like that. And then we also have batteries, and well, there's other utilities that are in here as well, like the ability to generate lava, make coffee, and also generate a nice amount of power with empowered canola. And all of this is wrapped around a very interesting crafting mechanic that involves two separate things, sort of a pedestal like infusing system. And then also you have the empowering system, which is like, you know, striking an item with a laser beam, you know, stuff that you do all the time in modded, you know, now to really get started with this mod, as I do want to get some basic infrastructure up. And I would love by the end of today to, for example, have some ore generation up, which is possible, by the way, with the mod. I want to find some new chunks because we're probably not going to find the ore lingering around in chunks that we've already generated, as this is a new ore that has now generated. And the way that we get it is by, well, finding new chunks and letting those freshly generate for the first time. Now, there's a couple of things I'm looking for. One, of course, fresh chunks. And that means going to an area, for example, that hasn't been loaded on my map. And we're looking for a couple of things. One, those new areas, and two, maybe a fresh village. Because there are village structures that generate with this mod, and it's kind of neat, and can grant you access to maybe a free coffee maker, also some other early resources. One of the main primary resources, though, that we're after right now is the black quartz. Now, you can find this just in a chest, like you can see right here, inside of the engineer's house, as some loot and some casings and some drill cores and stuff like that. A little bit of like early game resources that this mod has in it. But this is the ore that we will definitely be finding if we load in those new chunks. And it does say like 8 per chunk, and it's right around like Y level 10, but from -25, yeah, and most common at 10. Which I really like this way this ore generation is explained. Now, while I'm loading in new chunks, you may be wondering, like, why am I so excited about this? Well, this is a way to generate not only lava, which is a very cool way of generating lava in my opinion, but this mod also has a way of generating ores, kind of like a quarry, at least for the vanilla ores. And it did seem like you can also farm up like fluorite and stuff from Mekanism as well. So I feel like that would be an incredibly valuable tool to have access to in our world. Now, back inside of our digital miner, I'm now in some new chunks. I set the values to what it actually says inside of JEI. And I now should be able to add a filter. So let's find the black quartz, and we can add a new item stack filter. Bring that over here, and that's the black quartz ore. Hit save, and that's what we're looking for. So now whenever we hit start, we should see that there is 1,829 of them in the new area. And I can just go ahead and let this farm it up. This shouldn't take too long. I just need a few of them to kind of get started. Now, while this is generating, another thing I kind of want to get my hands on is canola. And typically, to be able to get canola, you would break grass, but I've broken quite a bit of grass to try and get this, and it is not dropped. And I also checked the market, which is a block where you can trade emeralds to be able to get different seeds. And so far, it's not in here. Maybe in here in the future, something that might get added. But I do think there is a way to still get canola. However, we are going to have to find a newly generated village, and it's going to be in relation to, well, that village that I mentioned earlier, where there's like a engineering structure. Now, here's a fresh village, but I don't think this is the structure I'm looking for. This is actually one from Pneumaticraft. And so, yeah, there's actually some nice things to grab from here. I might as well grab this, including like a free wrench. Heck yeah. Now on my adventure, wow, that is a structure right there. There is so much wheat in this structure, but there's like a lot of zombies apparently. I wonder, is there like zombie spawners here? Or something like that in these farms? I don't know, but there is definitely a lot of zombified villagers. And this is a pillager structure. Okay. I don't know. I do want to get out of here though. I'm still on the hunt for a village. I just haven't found one that had the building in it yet. I'll tell you what though, what a picturesque scene. This is just absolutely beautiful looking. Wow. And this just makes me want to move my entire base here instead. Aha, here's another village. Oh, and I think this right here is exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, so yeah, I've just gone in a straight line essentially looking for villages. Did find some very interesting things along the way though, but we'll end up coming back to those. But this is what I'm after right now. And this building you'll find, like I said, in the villages. And there's some interesting things in here, like showing off the lights and a coffee maker, right? Definitely want to take that. Uh-oh. But notice it says the block shattered as you tried to break it. Maybe it wasn't sturdy enough to be broken. Oh no. So right here's a crusher. I'm assuming we can't break that either. A canola press. And then let's see, upstairs we have a chest with an atomic reconstructor. And this is where I said you can also find a way to get started with the black quartz. And if you have an atomic reconstructor, which by the way you make with the black quartz, you can then farm ores with it with a special lens. And well, if this has power, which it does not right now, it would convert blocks, for example, this block of coal into something else. It does look like there's a coal generator. So if we maybe put something in here that burns, I don't know, maybe we can get this a little bit of power, put that in there, and will that relay? Okay, it's not connected. I think it's because this is turned around. This is supposed to be rotated around. But I'm assuming I can't break this. Yeah, but I will take these because these are essentially free. And yeah, can I take those? Nope. Wait. I can break it. Wait, it didn't shatter. It gave it to me. Oh, hold on a minute. Okay. It's supposed to be breaking it, but maybe it's my pick, the Celesti Gem pick, that allows it to not. There's a lamp controller. Okay. I'm going to take this stuff. You know what? Since it's available, might as well take it. These are some nice machines that I won't have to craft. Also, tiny torches is a part of actually additions, which is very, very cute. Now, the canola. That's the thing I was after. We should be able to find it inside of here. Here's flax. There's flax, rice, coffee, and canola. Oh, thank goodness. And this right here gets us started with all of the basic materials that we are going to need, specifically canola seeds. Also, I wonder if I can boop the fermenting barrel. Yep, just like everything else. By the way, I don't know what's going on in this village, but I believe they have a problem. Yeah, specifically with large head syndrome. I have no idea what's going on here. Now, this, by the way, was the thing that I thought I seen that was kind of interesting. The guy's smiley face is he's just too happy, but I will mark this and come back to it later. Now, back at the base, one of the first things that I really want to make from actually additions is going to be the atomic reconstructor, aka all of the different names that you see it swapping to, such as stuffy definerator, particle recombinator. Yeah, you get the reference. Now, luckily we got a lot of those items simply from breaking them, even though I don't think we were supposed to, but we do have them now. And I'm assuming that once we've picked them up, we can then re-break them ourselves. And this is the main thing that I want, the atomic reconstructor. So let's go ahead and place this bad boy up here and see exactly what it does. So we are going to need a redstone torch. This is actually how we tell it which modes to be in. So we have pulse mode and we have deactivation mode. Deactivation mode means it's going to constantly run. So by default, if we give it power, it's going to constantly shoot a laser beam. And if we have it in pulse mode, it's only going to shoot the thing whenever we tell it to. Now, something that I used to do is I used to do a pressure plate, and I would place a wooden pressure plate in front of this, so that way when I place the items on it, it would then trigger. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can use a button or what have you. Now I'm going to give it power with a gate, and that should start to charge it up. So you can see right there in the left, this has some crystal flux. Very, very nice. And when I step on this, it shoots a laser. However, I didn't see the laser that time. So let's try a button. And I don't know how well the laser is going to render with shaders. It doesn't look like it's going to at all. What? Sometimes shaders are just a real bummer, you know? But this is what reality looks like. I mean, it's a whole lot less vibrant, but there we go. That's what the laser beam actually looks like from Actually Editions. And to note, the pressure plate works perfectly fine as well. Now, thankfully, JEI does show us quite a few recipes, and there might be more added in the future. The cool part about the way this mod works is if you're making your own mod pack or what have you, you can add your own custom atomic reconstructor recipes. And you can make the atomic reconstructor sort of act as like a Project E sort of thing, where you can take one item and completely change it into another similar item by just giving it a certain amount of power. So in this, we can get ourselves crystallized canola. We can convert mushrooms into nether wart. That's a fantastic one right there, early game. We can also convert nether quartz into prismarine, which is very powerful sometimes. If you haven't, for example, made it to an ocean, you can convert rotten flesh into leather. And this is also how you craft up, for example, all of the different components that are going to be needed for the later tier items in this mod. For example, the diamond crystal, the emeraldatic, and then the palace, and you also have void. And what was the other one? It's the Anori. So my goal today is to get the Lava Factory controller. So we need the Lava Factory controller and some casings. This is going to cost empowered Anori crystal blocks. And that means, well, we have to go through a progression line. Now, the advanced coils are something else that I do want, and this also requires redstonia. So, redstonia, pretty easy to get, but the empowered is a different mechanic. This actually requires an empowerer, and requires an empowerer setup. So the way that we make an empower is we take this and we surround it with some stands. And this is where the pressure plate comes into play. So I'll just simply drop this on there, and it immediately gets converted into Anori crystals at the cost of some power. And I also need to do this for redstone. So a simple boop, and voila. Now the display stands here, they do cost something kind of special. It's going to cost aesthetic green quartz and then aesthetic quartz. Both of them do come from quartz, but different types of quartz. For example, this is a chiseled quartz block, which you get from taking the quartz block and putting it into a stone cutter. And then we have a regular quartz block. So it is going to take quite a bit of quartz in order to get to where we're at. And because we're going to need 5 display stands total, 4 for the actual structure, and well, 1 for the empower, that equates to 30, which we are going to split into 2. And I can use a pocket stone cutter. This is a cool little thing. It's just like an item frame. And we need to find chiseled quartz for half of that. And then we just toss it in, both of them. So I'll toss 1. That gets swapped over, so now we have aesthetic quartz, and we should now have chiseled aesthetic quartz. And it's at this point that you probably don't understand how nostalgic this actually is, because like I said, it's been like 5 years or more since I have actually played with Actually Editions. And I know I could always go back and play those older packs, but it just doesn't feel good going from a newer version of Minecraft back into, for example, 1.12, where there's been major gameplay mechanics changes. For example, like your shifting changes and like all kinds of stuff. The game doesn't feel good anymore after playing in these newer versions. My goodness, talk about me sounding spoiled there. I mean, but for real, those changes have really made a huge difference in my opinion. And just in case you were wanting even more fancy math, we are also going to need 7 coils, I believe, to craft all of these components up. So I need to make a double battery. That's going to be required for this. We're also going to need the casings here. So just 2 of them. And some sticks, of course. So I do want to get all of this stuff crafted up. All of these recipes are still the originals. And all those 7, by the way, are then going to be combined into the display stands. So there's 5 of those. And then finally, we have the Empower itself and its display stands. And this is pretty cool. Now, don't let display stands fool you, because it doesn't actually mean what you think it means. But by default, we need to go out 2 blocks, and we put a 2-block separator in between, so technically 3 blocks away. And this is how you build the Empowerer for actually additions. Oh man, this is even more nostalgic. It is nice and fancy. I do want to place down on the bottom here its power. And I'm going to place some gates on here to give this some power. And typically in this mod, you would use the lasers, which is another cool way of transferring power around. And I don't know if it's still the same, but this mod used to have some of the best fluid pipes that ever existed. They had an infinite transfer rate. So you could just essentially hook it up to anything, which I know we have other mods now that do the same thing. But man, back in 1.12, that discovery was insane. Once everything's placed in, we don't really have to power the Empower part. That's where the display stands come into play. And they're going to receive items, and you can use hoppers on these, and you can also use hoppers on this and hopper the product out. But I just kind of want to do this by hand right now, and we can use blocks to do this. So we can see all of the individual recipes here. We have individual item forms, for example, to make the Anori, or we have the block form to make the Anori. And it's much, much cheaper for us to do the block form because yes, these items here, they do get consumed. So now, moment of truth. We just need to place the cobblestone, the button, the snowball, and the gray dye on here. And then in the middle, we place our Anori block. And we just watch the magic happen. As the power gets consumed, it takes a moment for this to process, to receive all of that power. And yeah, a little bit of time. By the way, all of this, if you're making a mod pack, all of this is customizable. You can change the color of the lasers for each crafting recipe, the amount of power required, of course, the items required in this process. So I can't wait to see what like mod packs utilize this for custom crafting in the future. And yes, it's 100% automatable with things like Applied Energistics and other mods as well. So place this in. You just have to be kind of clever with how you set up your automation for this. At the moment, we're not really needing to automate any of this, so I'm just doing it by hand. But like I said, there's another mechanic that I'm really excited about, and then it allows us to obtain infinite free lava, which I know there's ways of gaining infinite free lava in here. We do have a cool new upgrade from functional storage that allows us to do this. For example, the dripper upgrade, and it's relatively cheap, and you can add, of course, a bunch of them if you really wanted to, and then you would be generating a ton of lava. But I don't know, this is kind of a cool way that also allows me to utilize some of the other cool means, for example, the collectors and stuff, because this is going to generate lava in world. Now for my next magic trick, lava controller. Very, very nice. Now, this does need 4 of the lava factory controller casings for it. And it's interesting that just this whole process alone just really costed us a single stack of iron, because we get 4 for each of the crafts. And so now, I believe the only thing we have to do is get this placed in somewhere that we want to, automate lava. We can set it up here for right now, I guess. And let's go ahead and grab some cobble or just some stone. And I want to place it in just to see kind of how this functions. So I'm going to place it in the air like this. I'm going to place the blocks around it like so. And then I believe that this goes like this. And I think that's the lava controller all set up. However, this does require power in order to work. It says, yeah, this lava factory is complete and produces lava. Okay, so let's get another gate and let's put some power on this. Just like that. And after a little bit of time, I do believe this will produce lava right here. And so we just need a way to interact with that lava. So yeah, not too bad at all. Like basically converting some of our power into lava production. Because right there is the lava. Didn't even take that long at all. And so a quick and simple way to actually collect this lava is to just use an Actually Additions fluid collector. And it's very, very cheap and doesn't require any sort of power or anything like that. You just place it down and it's now collected the lava. And we can now just tap into this, for example, and use an importer. And we could make more of these. And something that I've noticed, it seems like the power right here will dip down whenever this does pull the lava in. And you can see it then needs to recuperate that power before it then produces another one. But it's generating lava, in my opinion, pretty quick. So now I think I found the perfect place for this, and I think I want to use an entangled block. This is going to be fantastic, so I'll make that. And I'm just going to entangle the fluid controller here. And because that has an inventory, a buffer, what we should be able to do is then connect it up to an importer, for example, over here. So I can probably just add another location right to the back here. And we'll place the entangled block and then link up that new block, which now also contains lava, and use an importer. Perfect. So just an import bus onto the bottom, and that is going to also be another source of lava. However, this one is absolutely unlimited. Whereas this one, I believe the range pump will eventually run out of lava in the area it's at. And beautiful. You can watch it now pulling the lava out of that fluid collector. So now that the fun part of having lava is all set up, let's actually take a look at one of the other cool functions of Actual Additions, and that's the fact that this thing can become a quarry. To be able to do that, we just need the lens of the miner. And so the lens of the miner requires these basic materials that you see right here. And this goes in front of this right here. Beautiful. So essentially you would automate this in some way. So right now it's set to pulse. So let's get a button and we can go ahead and just simulate us giving it a redstone signal. And we can put an ore in front of here, for example, or stone. This needs like stone or andesite, a stone variant, right? And so if I hit this button, you'll notice it changed it to coal, but it doesn't continue on. That changed it to coal, and that changed to coal all the way out here. That changed it, for example, to black quartz. So what you would need is you would need some way to have the stone auto-generated, which you can do, by the way, with a stone generator. This would then detect that block change. And then what you would want to do is you would then want something to auto-break these ores. Now, to set up a mini version of this sort of automation, I kind of want to show you a cool way of doing it. So you just make a stone generator, right? And you can do that by taking a stair and waterlogging it, placing the lava directly on top, and then placing your water in first and then that in second. And then what you'll have now is a stone generator. That's pretty straightforward. Now we need to figure out the logic behind this, and a cool way, and I was doing some kind of planning for this, we can use, for example, a simple sensor from just Dire Things. Like, of course, Dire has made something that is fantastic, and I was wondering if something like this existed. What I really need to do is I just need to emit a signal when it detects there's stone in front of this. And so if there is a stone in front of this, we can tell this to emit a redstone signal. And the way that we can do that is by getting this sensor placed on here. And so it's going to be connected like this. And inside of the filter, we can set it to allow. And then we can say, hey, detect and only send a signal if there is stone in front of it. And we can make sure this is a strong signal if that is the case. And so that is then going to pass that signal through, and we can use either this or a piece of redstone to see this more clearly. But as of right now, you can see that that redstone right there is not lit because there is no stone in front of it. But if I was to break this, stone would then exist, and then it would then send a redstone signal, causing this to be able to be pulsed again. Now, after a bit more testing, doing the pulse method may actually not be the best method for this. Instead, what I might want to do is have this set to deny, so it only sends a signal essentially if there is no stone there. And when there is no stone there, this will basically be locked and no longer sending a pulse. And we can change that mode by right-clicking on here and changing it to deactivation mode. So how am I actually going to break this? So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated because it does have a chance of generating cobblestone. And if I go ahead and, for example, use an annihilation plane, this can be kind of confusing for it, because when an annihilation plane is looking for what it's breaking, it knows what item it receives in return. So it knows that it's going to be breaking stone and receiving cobblestone. So technically it would be best done if I was to enchant the annihilation plane with Silk Touch. And that's actually a pretty easy process because you can just place it directly inside of the enchanting table. Now to set this up, all we have to do is place the plane on here that has now Silk Touch on it. And we are going to need to tell it where to go. And this is actually what you control. This is how you control what the Annihilation plane breaks, is by what you set up inside your storage bus. So if I put stone in here, it would then only break stone because that's the only thing it knows to break. But you can invert this filter. So by inverting this filter, I can say, well, only break things that are not stone. And I can turn this into a blacklist by using an inverter card. So by doing this, this now says break everything except for stone, and that also includes cobblestone. Anything that's here that is not a stone that gets it back in return, then be sure to break it. And so I should be able to place that there and give it some power on this little sub network. And you'll notice it's not doing anything. Well, at least not yet. Let's go ahead and make sure this is set to deny. And we can toggle this, by the way, to back to 20. And place our redstone here, and then make sure this is put into deactivation mode. So this is now going to run, and you can see the redstone signal toggles off, meaning this is going to stay in a state of running whenever there is no longer, when there is stone in front of it. And this is now breaking everything. Ignore this. This is for my testing a minute ago. This is now just breaking the raw ore material and storing it away for us. Look at that. That is a pretty simple kind of quarry. And this is honestly very compact. I do have the slab here, by the way, because this does generate water and I don't want water spilling all over the place. But this little setup right here can just over time, just constantly generate materials for you at the cost of just a little bit of power each time this atomic reconstructor sends a laser beam. And then further processing can be done from here. Notice, by the way, we're getting osmium ore from Mekanism, gold, copper. We ended up getting modern industrialization material. So yes, this is actually a quarry and it's just going to work over time. And oh yes, this could be 100% scaled up. Now this is just merely a proof of concept, as I have a bigger plan for this setup behind me. And I'm hoping that this sort of stays the way it is, as I think it's a really cool way of generating resources. Now notice this is actually generating uraninite, and this was going to be something that I think the only way to get it was either going to be modernization or via the occultism. And I really didn't want to go deep into occultism just for mining. So this is actually going to be really nice, but it is slow with just one, but it won't be slow if there's more than one. So that is going to be something that'll be worked on in the future. And I can't wait to set up something scaled up quite a bit. And it'll be easily doable once we get into a couple of other mods and gain access to, well, easier production of just stone itself. Now, let's toggle these back on. It takes a minute. Voila. And shaders are now back implemented. Because the only real need to keep the shaders off was so I could see those laser lines. But we are going to be diving into something very spooky for the next episode, as next episode, well, is going to be published on Halloween. In this video coming out the day before Halloween, I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you learned something new about actually additions. There's so much more to kind of play around with and test that I'm going to be doing in future videos, but I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And of course, with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Nihilist. Thank you so much for your amazing support in choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. And not only that, absolutely going above and beyond. You absolute chat. I do appreciate you so much. I'll, of course, guys, see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.